The court is the Supreme Court, Westchester County. The date of the appeal is October 23rd. The date it was entered, the date of the decision, I guess, is October 14th. And the date that it was entered was October 25th. And this appeal is from Judge Matthew Capola's order to dismiss plaintiff's complaint of negligences, and it's a plea for $60,000 damages and costs. This is also an appeal from Judge Capola's order to dismiss plaintiff's motion to vacate because defendants did not enter their order timely, which is just fine by Judge Capola. And that's, here are the receipts. This is the check for $50, and this is the county clerk's receipt. Now this appeal, I have to perfect this appeal from October 23rd, November 23rd, December 23rd, January 23rd, 90 days. I will have to have in my appellant's brief and my record on appeal and my check for $250 to buy the 4 appellate division judges. This is Glendora, chat with Glendora, and this is what happened on Glendora versus the DHCR on the week of 11/15/1993. And keep your courage flaming. Everybody, this is what happened with Glendora versus Lydia Gallicano on the week of November 15th, 1993. I want to show you, first of all, when you complain to the State of New York Commission on Judicial Conduct, you get nothing but a computer letter. Every time they say the same thing. This is to acknowledge receipt by the State Commission on Judicial Conduct of your complaint dated October 2nd, 1993. Your complaint will be presented to the Commission, which will decide whether or not to inquire into it, and they will decide not to. We will be in touch with you after the Commission has had the opportunity to review the matter. Lee Kite-Clear. Okay, this is September 27th, 1993. That one was October 25th. Same thing. This is to acknowledge receipt by the State Commission on Judicial Conduct of your complaint dated August 4th and 23rd, 1993. Oh, this is 2 of them, which we received September 21st and 22nd. Your complaint will be presented to the Commission, which will decide whether or not to inquire into it. We will be in touch with you after the Commission has had the opportunity to review the matter. Lee Kite-Clear, Administrative Assistant. Here's the 3rd one. This to acknowledge, this one is November 17th. This is to acknowledge receipt by the State Commission on Judicial Conduct of your complaint marked November 8th, 1993. So this is how much good it does to complain about judges. Your complaint will be presented to the Commission, and please note that the Commission has no jurisdiction over judges' law secretaries. Oh, there's something different. I note that you have written to the Deputy Administrative Judge in the Office of Court Administration. I think he's referring to Trafficante up in Albany. We will communicate with you again after the Commission has reviewed your letter of complaint. Oh, here's the 4th one, and of course that says the same thing. Lee Kite-Clear. This one's October 26, 93. And do you notice that they're very, very careful not to give the name of the judge? They don't want anybody to know that somebody's complaining about a judge. And here they are, the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct. How much do those people get paid a week for doing this kind of stuff? Sending out these form letters. November the 15th, 1993. We cleaned up the Holden file down cellar. It can sleep for 11 weeks or so before the oral argument before the appellate term. That's Judge Holden's bad decision. November the 16th, 1993, Tuesday. Called the appellate division to see if they got the appeal that Glendora perfected. That would be the appellant's brief and the record on appeal. And that was the appeal of Ruskin, the illegal rent against Lydia Gallicano. Teenagers to parents. What do you want for your 17th anniversary? Parents, we would like our own telephone. November the 17th, 1993, Wednesday, Glendora got an A+ on her appeal to the appellate division. Holden, Lydia, appellate term. That's Holden's bad decision. It was all fine, and they did not send it back. It is in the works. Glendora wanted them, you know, on the December term in Mineola. Glendora really watched them, I meant to say. Glendora watched them in their December term in Mineola, and remember, also in the November term. She also watched them last year, every month. I think it was 12 times I watched them in 1992. So that is done. The appellate term is the boomerang court. You've heard of a kangaroo court? The appellate term is the boomerang court. Whatever you send them, they send it back, but not on this one. I got an A+. November the 18th, 1993, Thursday, Monday, Glendora will start perfecting the Donovan appeal, and that's on the Con Ed. The Con Ed charges, the punitive damages. Glendora has to keep going down cellar to return the backs she used up on the Lydia illegal rent file. I've used up the backs on all of these legal papers. All of the backs are used up. So instead of using nice new paper, which makes life much easier, I have to go and use up the backs. But I've done all that for all of these cases, for all of the files. November 19th, Friday, nothing on Lydia. November 20th, Saturday, there was nothing much to do, filing in the logs. The attorney says being a lawyer gives me a grand and glorious feeling. His client says, right, you give him a grand and he feels glorious. November the 21st, 93, Sunday, start perfecting the Donovan appeal on a bad decision on December 1st. The time on Lydia this week is just 2 hours. Glendora will read on videotape for TV what happened this week, Glendora versus Lydia et al. And if you can't get a lawyer who knows the law, then you get one who knows the judge. On November the 22nd, 93, Monday, Thanksgiving week, what is new around the courthouse? Judge Ruskin is retiring. He should have long ago, but his bad law clerk will still be there. It really doesn't matter who the judge is. Judges don't have any say in these decisions. Glendora must send Ruskin her appellant's brief before Ruskin retires in December. November the 23rd, 1993, Tuesday. On December 1st, Glendora will have to start perfecting her appeal of Donovan's bad decision. It's all written, you know. Yeah, the appellant's brief is all written and the record on appeal is all written. It's been sent down to the clerks down to Brooklyn, to the appellate division. They checked it over for form, and I got an A+. The next time Glendora goes down cellar to her bin, she will get out a copy of her appellant's brief and make Ruskin a copy. There was a collision of 2 cars, and a man ran to the scene. He said, I saw the whole thing happen. I'm a lawyer. I'll take either side. And that's what happened on Glendora versus Lydia Gallicano et al. And keep your courage flaming. Happened on Glendora versus CBS Inc. Howard Stringer, Executive Vice President and Senior Vice President of Network Sales. That would be Joseph Abruzze and Peter Lund. Beth Bresson, Matthew Margot, Marty Daly, and Matt Steinfeld. Let's see. You know that the record on appeal has been finished. See, this is called Perfecting the Appeal. The record on appeal is just a collection of all of the legal papers, the summons with notice, the answer in the form of a motion, in this case to dismiss, and a cross motion by me to dismiss their motion and to grant my $110,000. So that's done. And I'm not going to send it to the appellate division for the clerks to look over, because I've sent 4 or 5 of them down there, and there aren't any changes. They don't make any changes. They said I did it right. So, and now I'm working on the appellant's brief to be argued by Glendora, 30 minutes requested. They won't allow that. They'll groan and they'll get disgusted. The judges, the 4 judges at the appellate division won't allow that. But I'm putting it down anyway because I think I should have it, and I'm certainly going to ask for it. And so this is a statement pursuant to CPLR 5531, table of contents, and all of the points of the argument have to be listed. And here's the brief of the plaintiff, appellant, and the preliminary statement, and then the questions involved are just put in, it's really the points put in question form. And now we're working on the statement of facts. And I'm taking a lot of time with this. and I'm telling him exactly the whole history of my dealings with CBS since the year 1976, really, but it really got hot in 1983. So I'm just telling him all about that. Statement of facts, it's called, and we're transcribing the bad conversation with Beth Bresson that really brought this thing to a head. Well, it was a bad decision of somebody, and CBS won't fess up as to who it was and what it was. And that's what happened on Glendora versus CBS in the week of November 15th, 1993. Mailing number 34, what happened at 21 Greenridge Avenue, November 15, 1993 week, Glendora versus Walsh, Pucci, and Larkin. November the 15th, 93 Monday, Staples was unable to copy anything, so the what happened log was not mailed out on Sunday. As usual, 5:42 p.m., Roberta Walsh blasted her horn twice outside Glendora's dining room window. That's number 520. Harassment, tort, intent to alarm and annoy. The soap powder, the 2 Roberta and Daniel Walsh summons, the 3 Andrew Larkin letters continue to besmirch the hallway. Roberta said to Glendora, this stuff has to be over here toward Glendora's door so we can walk by. It also has to be away from our door so we can exit and enter without tracking the stuff into our tidy little home. John Porzey was here. James Walsh came in from school. John asked him questions. Roberta stood at the bottom of the stairs. James was on the upper landing. James, even with John there and his mother there, hurled an epithet at Glendora. John said, that doesn't help. Roberta said Glendora chased James upstairs. That is a lie. James was harassing by stomping his feet on the stairs, intent to annoy and alarm with no legitimate purpose. Subsection 5 of the harassment law. Glendora went up the stairs to see with her eyes who it was. James, in fright, ran up the stairs to his father. Roberta never tells the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these matters. And when John exited the front door, James repeated the epithet. It is on audio tape, and added lunatic. These are the nice words his parents have taught him. Glendora is trying to reach the special investigators about the powder, but they do not seem to be around. Glendora talked to Chief Bradley's office. There are still water leaks in the cellar. John and Cesar came back and cleaned up the soap powder. Franklin picked up the police report. Diana Williams called Glendora and told her the piece would be on the 11 p.m. news, Eyewitness News, Channel 7, Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm going in to edit now, she said. The time on wall today is 1 hour. We're up to November 16, 1993, Tuesday, 2:25 p.m. There was a lot of Walsh noise in the hall. That would be number 523, harassment. 3:28 p.m., Kevin Larkin pounded on the outside of Glendora's bedroom wall, southeast corner, number 524. 6:05 p.m., a lot of noise in the hall. Here is the law James Walsh has broken so many times and continues to break without restraint. Where severe mental pain or anguish is inflicted upon, through a deliberate and malicious campaign of harassment or intimidation, a remedy is available in the form of an action for the intentional infliction of emotional distress. Where defendant's conduct is extraordinarily vindictive, it may be regarded as so extreme and outrageous as to give rise to a tort cause of action for emotional distress. Okay, now we'll go over to the, that was the first page. These pages are affectionate, they're stuck on each other. Particular acts are actionable when done without legal justification, or as the rule is sometimes stated, when done maliciously. And these are done maliciously. An action will lie for malicious acts and words where they are calculated to produce and where they do produce damage. And that's what's before the Supreme Court right now, Glendora versus Walsh, Pucci, and Larkin. Here's the police report. And this is from Officer Light, L-E-I-G-H-T. I responded to 21 Greenridge Avenue on a call from headquarters of soap powder spilled in front of the complainant's door. Buell, that's me, showed me about a cup's worth of soap powder on the floor in front of her door. Buell states she suspected her upstairs neighbors of harassment. That would be Roberta Walsh. James Walsh, Franklin suspects Kevin Larkin. Not bad, Officer Light. You should have gone up to Roberta Walsh, though, and questioned her. Andrew Spanos, official notary, told Franklin today he saw him in Glendora on Eyewitness News, 11 p.m. about the feature coming up on neighborhood disputes. Glendora concluded it very well was a promo for Tuesday night. And did they ever promo it? Oh, did they ever do that? They had promos all, so many programs, promos, all during the 6 p.m. news, that it was coming on the 11 p.m. news. Glendora's lawyer called Glendora at 6:30 p.m. and told her that he saw this promo too. Glendora saw the same at 6:17 p.m. Tuesday and again at 6:29 p.m. just before Peter Jennings interviewed President Clinton. The pictures are awful. They make people look like Whistler's mother. Glendora's TV camera does a much better job. It might not be the camera, it might be the cameraman. He really didn't have the right adjustment. Daniel is in the promo, Nella, Franklin, and Glendora. Glendora has 2 programs on TCI now. A new one started this week. It is a different series about a landlord and about the DHCR. The time on wall today is 3.5 hours. Mary Ann did a smashing job on the hall. Boy, is she good. And cellar. She cleaned up everything. She cleaned up Roberta's cigarette butts and Candy Alpucci's cigarette butts. Can you imagine going downstairs and using the laundry and leaving cigarette butts on the floor? Newly painted floor. There is still water in the cellar. The little boy watching the escalator said, "What happens when the basement fills up with steps?" 8:36 p.m., set up to videotape the news piece off of Channel 7 tonight, set the alarm for 11 p.m., and watch a chat with Glendora on Channel 8, which is the next channel up from Channel 7, right? Now, Eyewitness News certainly had a multiplicity of promos for this news feature, and they were very graphic. Well, they certainly took enough footage. They certainly had footage to spare. It is too bad to be so wasteful of the company's finances and manpower. It's what you call padding. I am glad I am not a shareholder. I am a shareholder in CBS, and NBC certainly has got its share of my money. Nella Alpucci showed her true colors on the Eyewitness News report. She says, "I don't know whether to laugh or cry or clock her." We had never heard that word before, clock. Our lawyer explained it to us. And Daniel Walsh is saying, "It's a laugh. Nobody takes it seriously. The police don't take it seriously. They laugh at it." Well, that made the police very upset. The police want it known that they do take it very seriously, and it is not a laughing matter. But Glendora has never heard any of these people tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. They constantly perjure themselves. Glendora got a very good videotape of Diana Williams' report off the air. On November the 17th, 1993, Wednesday, the What Happened for Last Night finally got printed and posted. Glendora decided to use up the NBC envelopes to save the trees. NBC sends me their invoices in these NBC envelopes. And you have to save the trees and you have to save paper, so I save the envelopes and then I use them up on something like this. Recycle, and at 6:40 a.m. we delivered a number 33 to the 16 apartments. Kevin Larkin was at his door at 1C with such a cute little black dog with a white tip on his tail. And the dog has a very appealing face. He's very, very cute. We also delivered and left the 3 unopened letters to Andrew Larkin that somebody anonymously dropped at our door Saturday morning. 7:22 a.m., Nella Alpucci's sister blasted her horn twice. It is good her horn is so much smaller than the Lincoln's, but nobody will ever hear the Lincoln's horn around here unless it is to prevent an accident, and that's what a horn is for. They constantly break the law. 7:23 a.m., James Walsh kicked the 2 summons still on the hall floor of Daniel and Roberta Walsh toward our door. They are not ours, they are theirs. The character generator at Channel 7 spelled Nella's name wrong, spelled it with an I instead of an E. And they used a nickname, Candy, instead of her real name. James Walsh had taken Bishop's letter from her door yet and put it at our door. Glendora returned it to the crack between Bishop's door and the jamb of the doorknob. 7:27 a.m., James Walsh turned around apparently on his way up the street to school to come back and kick the 2 books of summons and complaint again and Bishop's letter toward Glendora's door again. Glendora returned Bishop's letter to the place it was before. 8:50 a.m., Bob kicked the 2 books out of the way. 11/18/1993, Thursday, they should pick up those summons. That's serious business. You don't ignore legal documents, and they'll find that out if I don't have an answer by December 2nd. November the 18th, 1993, Thursday, I get a default judgment for $21,000. At 7:05 a.m., when Glendora opened her front door, there was a white substance all over the threshold with water or some liquid mixed into some of it. It looked like flour, and it must have been about 3 cups. Some of it got onto the 2 books, the summons with notice and complaint that belonged to Roberta and Daniel Walsh. The prime suspect is Kevin Larkin. Franklin says his prime suspect is Roberta Walsh. And Scotch tape to the door, folks, was this envelope, on the front of which was this writing. And Daniel Walsh's book, the summons with notice and complaint, was gone. Each book had the defendant's name on the binding. Since Daniel Walsh has told Eyewitness News, I'd like to see her move, and since his copy of the summons with notice and complaint was missing, he is the prime suspect. Also, since it is signed $21,000, and that's the amount that they were sued for. Also, the obscenity is his, over and over again. This brings the count to number 527. 527. It doesn't make sense to go on breaking the law. The very things that they got sued for, they perpetuate. It just does not make sense. So Glendora started to process the vandalism and the harassment. It's the same every time. The first thing you do is call the police and get a record of it. The next step you do is get a videotape record of it. The next thing you do is to inform the landlord. All of this took 45 minutes. Insert, on their way to school, Kevin Larkin, James Walsh, and Neil Alpucci came into the hall outside Glendora's door and were looking at the mess on the floor. Glendora shocked them by opening the door quickly. Kevin ran as fast as he could to the north and hid in the bushy shrubbery. James ran as fast as he could toward the south, heading for school. And Neil did not run. This was the criminal revisiting the scene of the crime. Either James was bragging to Kevin that he was doing what he had been doing, or Kevin was coming back to see what he had done and brag about it. All this happened at the moment that the cruiser pulled up, the police cruiser. Glendora went out and told the officer her 2 suspects were walking up the sidewalk across the street, and pointed them out to him and gave him their names, James Walsh and Kevin Larkin. Also, at precisely this moment, Nella Alpucci's sister came down the street and blew her horn twice. Glendora told the officer about that. He really should have arrested her. The police keep saying they have to see it happen. Well, he saw it happen. Arrest her. The sister came over to the cruiser and said, "Look, I pick up my sister every morning and I have to blow my horn so she'll see me." She admitted it every morning. Arrest her. Nella started one of her unbalanced laughing put-ons. Glendora had the audio tape recorder in her hand. Glendora asked the officer his name. It was Coyle, and he had no shield. Now this is a lie that the sister is telling, that she has to blow the horn to make sure that her sister knows she's coming. First of all, that is the breaking of the law of the use of an automobile horn. An automobile horn is to prevent accidents. Second of all, it's not true. Candy Alpucci, Nella Alpucci, is out there at the curb every morning at 10 after 7. She waits 12 minutes for her sister to come. So there's no need to blow the horn, even if it were legal. Officer Coyle did not have a shield. He did not have a badge. He came in, so I don't know what his number is. He came in and he saw the scene in the hall. He asked about the summons, as did Light. Glendora said she wanted a copy of the report to go to Lieutenant Quinn. Officer Coyle stood at attention, so to speak, and saluted, so to speak, and checked to see if his shoes were shined. She said that Officer Fisher was working on the case and wanted a copy to go to him. He took a lot of time from that point on and was very thorough. He, too, should have gone up and asked Roberta if she knew anything about the white substance and about the abusive note on the door. Franklin was a witness. 19 people told Glendora they have seen her on Eyewitness News at 11 p.m. One person said, "Typical sweeps, shock, take it out of context." That's what TV news does. A chat with Glendora was on TV. It was the boy harassing Glendora. It was the 8 boys harassing Glendora, mangling our national anthem. There were more horrors. This is Wall Chapter 2 program, and it has been televised. There will be one on next week and the week after and so forth. There are 13 of those. Glendora, now the Wall videotapes on TV are in 2 parts. It's one series called Glendora versus Wall of Poochie Larkin. And then the Series A is all of the video, the actual video of the horrible things that they did, the outrageous and shocking things that they did with intent to cause emotional distress. That's all video and audio tapes on the video. And over here, this side, is what you see now, the reading of the what happened logs. So it's a series in 2 parts, Part A and Part B. Now, Glendora edited Thursday afternoon, but had no time to do any wall except a VHS archive at Chapter 14 wall. November the 19th, 93, Friday, 7:22 a.m., Nella Apucci's sister blew her horn twice. This is the result of the White Plains police letting her. She will push them as far as she can. This takes a certain type of juvenile mentality. Adults do not act that way. Glendora talked to Officer Filati. Glendora talked to Lieutenant Quinn. He said, "You got coverage," talking about the Channel 7 Eyewitness News. It is 4 p.m. and there has been civilized living here after 7:23 a.m. and the sister blasting the horn. Memorize the law. Did you hear about the couple who had twin daughters and they named them Kate and Duplicate? We've got 528 harassment, 529 harassment, 530. Nella loud talking to a boy under our south bedroom window. Number 531, Uncle Ozzie, guest of Nella, blowing his horn outside our bedroom window, and he should not drive that car onto this property at all. There is no accommodation here for guest parking. He should not drive that car here, as he does repeatedly, he and his wife. 6:05 p.m., number 533, 8:13 p.m., Theo Alpucci, loud whistling so as to annoy and disturb a person's peace, comfort, repose, quiet in any dwelling or any residence at any time. Number 534, Theo Alpucci taunting Glendora with words. Number 536, woman's voice outside Glendora's dining room window. Where Glendora was working, the light was on and she could see her. She says, "Oh, is this where Glendora lives?" Attorney, "It gives me a grand and glorious feeling to be a lawyer." And his client said, "Right, you give him a grand and he feels glorious." The set tubs are still plugged. The water comes cascading out of them when the washing machine changes cycles. We have our feet got wet, also our shoes and our socks. And Glendora told Mr. Porzio, so did Mrs. McDermott. Number 537, Nella Alpucci blew her horn outside Glendora's east bedroom window Saturday morning. That was a lot of work for Cesar to put in those new mailboxes. He does such beautiful work. He does a great job. 12:05 p.m., Roberta and James making a lot of noise. Number 538, James stomping feet on the stairs to annoy and alarm, harass. This is criminal. Number 539, 2D, man and woman who visits him, blew the car horn under Glendora's south bedroom window. 12:55 p.m., then they cut across the lawn, ruining it. 1:55 p.m., Cesar was here working on the set tubs. He is gone now, and the cellar looks very nice, except for some discarded boxes left by some lazy tenant outside of bin 5. Glendora's rent figure is $1,018 now. That is too much for a place with no garage, and that's an increase of rent in 1 year of about $800. We are washing Franklin's suits from summer. Glendora has to keep going to the cellar to make sure that the hoodlums do not steal them, as they stole the 2 pairs of pants and the pant hangers. 1 hour today on Wall, 2:47 p.m., there was a car collision. A man ran to the scene of the accident. He said, "I saw everything happen. I'm a lawyer. I'll take either side." November the 21st, 1993, Thanksgiving Sunday. The set tubs are working. Cesar has fixed them. He is so smart. Glendora thanked Porzio and Cesar. The front hall is still a mess from the Walsh, Alpucci, Larkin hoodlums. Darlene is moving. That is too bad. She is a good neighbor. None of the hoodlums stole our garments, at least so far, hanging by our bin to dry. 2:12 p.m., James Walsh noise in the hall. Number 539, 2:13 p.m., read the law. Where severe mental pain or anguish is inflicted through a deliberate and malicious campaign of harassment or intimidation, a remedy is available in the form of an action for the intentional infliction of emotional distress. Where the defendant's conduct is extraordinarily vindictive, it may be regarded as so extreme and outrageous as to give rise to a tort cause of action for emotional distress. Particular acts are actionable when done without legal justification, or, as the rule is sometimes stated, when done maliciously. An action will lie for malicious acts and words where they are calculated to produce and where they do produce damage. And there has to be no physical contact. This is without physical contact. See, this is the civil part. Glendora asked Arlene to go to Thanksgiving service with her tonight at 7 p.m. We left to do is the wall videotaping of this What Happened log, number 324. Copy this What Happened, fold stuff seal, address the envelopes and post. And 4.5 hours today and 14.25 hours for the week. And that got done before we went to the Thanksgiving service at 7 p.m. where we had 10 churches convene. We had 10 churches convene. It was a beautiful service. We gather together to ask the Lord's blessing. If you cannot get a lawyer who knows the law, at least get a lawyer who knows the judge. This is the end of November the 15th, 1993 week. 5 people at church said they saw the Eyewitness News report. That would be 23 in all who told Glendora that they saw it. I'm used to being on TV. I'm used to people telling me that they've seen me on TV. But let me tell you that 23 people telling you they saw you on TV is very, very good. And I'd like to tell you that broadcast is still king. Broadcast commands the audience. Cable TV is second to broadcast. The action is still in broadcast TV. I've been on the NBC television network. I've been on the CBS television network. People have told me that they've seen that, but not as many people have told me as have seen the Eyewitness News. I've always said that the 6 p.m. news and the 11 p.m. news on channels 2, 4, and 7 are powerhouses. People really watch that. And as a time buyer, I have to know the number of people who are watching that. And I would say right now, 11 p.m. news is about 800,000 people on Channel 7. This is Glendora, Chat with Glendora, What Happened on Glendora versus Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin on the week of November the 15th, 1993. Keep your courage flaming and don't let anybody trample on your rights. On the week of November 15, 1993, nothing happened on Glendora versus Amicone, Del Vecchio, and the White Plains Building Department. On the week of November 15, 1993, nothing happened on Glendora versus the Martial Arts Institute of America for breach of contract. 11/13/93 week, Russell Brower signed the green card, the return receipt requested, so the trial is on for November 29, 1993, Monday. Russell Brower also called NBC, and NBC told him that they would have nothing to do with that. Of course, why should they? And WNBC TV. And he asked if a contract had been made between myself and WNBC. Yes. And did any money exchange hands? No. Would you put that in writing? No. Now, the Supreme Court of the State of New York, Westchester County, Glendora versus Elizabeth Hubbard, Alan Beck, Michelle Mayapath, and the Fund for Modern Courts. This is the summons with notice. The index number is 2086793, and it was filed on November the 16th, 1993. To the above-named defendants, you are hereby summoned to answer the complaint in this action and to serve a copy of your answer within 20 days after the service of this summons, exclusive of the day of service, and in case of your failure to answer, judgment will be taken against you by default for the relief demanded herein. Dated White Plains, New York, November the 16th, 1993. Defendant's address, 38 West 44th Street, Suite 310, New York, New York, 10036 212-275-1577. Glendora, Box 532, Scarsdale, New York, 10583 914-949-9495. Notice, the nature of this action is damages for negligences for causing plaintiff Glendora hours, days, and weeks of wasted time, labor, and expense under false pretenses. The relief sought is money damages. Upon your failure to answer, judgment will be taken against you by default for the sum of $20,000 with interest from October the 15th, 1993, and the costs of this action. That's the summons with notice. Page 3 is the complaint. Elizabeth Hubbard, Allen Beck, and Michelle Mayopath in the Fund for Modern Courts are negligent in going back on their word to monitors Glendora and Franklin Buell. Elizabeth Hubbard, Allen Beck, Michelle Mayopath, and the Fund for Modern Courts are negligent in not circulating and publishing the court monitoring reports of Glendora and Franklin Buell after contracting with these monitors to do so. Elizabeth Hubbard, Allen Beck, Michelle Mayopath, and Fund for Modern Courts are negligent in getting Glendora and Franklin Buell to spend 4 weeks, 100 hours to monitor the Westchester City Courts of Peekskill, Rye, Yonkers, and the Village of Port Chester, under the agreement that these monitors' reports would be circulated and published. Hubbard, Beck, Mayopath, the Fund for Modern Courts were negligent in causing monitors Glendora and Franklin the expense of gasoline car wear for nothing. These same 4 were negligent in causing a severe disruption of daily schedule to run their business, Glendora TV ads, for naught, on the false promise that these reports would be circulated and published. Hubbard, Beck, Mayopath, and the Fund for Modern Courts were negligent in their repeated deceits to Glendora when Glendora asked, when will the Westchester report go out? End of June, turned out to be a lie. End of July, turned out to be a lie. End of August, turned out to be a lie. End of September, turned out to be a lie. These 4 were negligent in deciding and stating in mid-September that there would be no report at all. These 4 are negligently responsible for making Glendora and Franklin look very bad in front of the judges and courts of Peekskill, Rye, Port Chester, and Yonkers, who helped Glendora and Franklin gather the information for the reports. These 4 have damaged the reputation of Glendora and Franklin and make Glendora and Franklin look ridiculous. Hubbard, Beck, Mayopath, and the Fund for Modern Courts have made a mockery of court monitoring. The negligence of Hubbard, Beck, Mayopath, and the Fund for Modern Courts have set court monitoring back several years. They have seriously injured a reform that is very much needed. Hubbard, Beck, Mayopath, and the Fund for Modern Courts are negligent in causing Glendora and Franklin 80 hours work writing the reports of the judges to the Fund for Modern Courts and then not using these reports, and all of this labor and time were for nothing. These 4 defendants are negligent in causing Glendora and Franklin all the hours of travel through heavy traffic to get to these courts, all for nothing. These 4 defendants were negligent to take Glendora's time from her business, Glendora TV ads, with concurrent loss of business and revenue, all for nothing. These 4 defendants are negligent in disgracing Glendora before all the judges she monitored. Glendora cringes to go before them and is embarrassed by this negligence of these 4 defendants in not acting honorably, honestly, and acceptably. Hubbard, Beck, Mayopath, and the Fund for Modern Courts have negligently inflicted emotional stress upon plaintiff Glendora. These 4 defendants are negligent not to read the monitor reports as they come in, and instead let them pile up unread and unattended to until 4 months later. They should be diligent and not dilatory. Defendants are negligent in giving Glendora their word that they would list Harrison and Eastchester as 2 of the courts that would be monitored in October and May 1993, 1994, and then going back on their word. Defendants are negligent in not putting in writing their reason in their announcement that they had decided not to write a report on the Westchester City Courts Franklin and Glendora monitored. We requested that. They refused to do it. Further, defendants were negligent not to respond to Glendora's 3 demands that this decision and the reasons for this decision be put in writing to Glendora and Franklin. These 4 defendants were negligent to let Glendora down and to let the judges and the court personnel down. Further, defendants are negligent to make the courts look bad the same year that Chief Judge Walker disgraced the courts. One of the reasons we have bad judges is that the Fund for Modern Courts is not doing its job on court reform. These 4 defendants are negligent to allow this decadence and disintegration of the trust people have given them. Plaintiff Glendora has said many times that the Fund for Modern Courts should be monitored. Defendants were negligent in ignoring Glendora's attempt to settle this dispute out of court and in finally denying they would attempt an alternative dispute resolution. They chose not to settle this out of court. Defendants were negligent in refusing to respond in writing to Glendora on the matter of resolving the dispute before it went to Westchester Supreme Court. Defendants Beck and Mayapath bowed to Defendant Hubbard, and Defendant Hubbard refused to come to the telephone when plaintiff called, refused to return calls, and refused to put in writing her decision not to settle out of court. Wherefore, paragraphs 1 to 23 do state a cause of action, negligence, and negligent infliction of emotional distress. Plaintiff pleads this court to award her damages for these injuries in the amount of $5,000 per defendant, and the cost of this action and what other relief this court deems fitting and proper. The total amount of damages is $20,000. Dated White Plains, New York, November the 16th, 1993. Yours truly, Glendora, Box 532, Scarsdale, New York, 10583, 914-949-9495. Subscribed and sworn to before me the 16th day of November, 1993. Francis E. Harrising, Notary Public. Everybody, here's what happened with Glendora versus Scott Lord, Jeffrey Barnes, Jan Stahl, etc., and all of those judges and the United States Attorney and the United States trustees. On November the 22nd, 93, Monday, we told you about that, and we told you about the day Tuesday, November the 23rd, 93, and November the 24th, 1993, Wednesday, Thanksgiving Eve. Glendora videotaped an hour on Scott Lord, Chapter 22, Program 1342. Glendora handed in 4 more Scott chapters to a TV company to be cablecast, and in an hour she hopes to bring Scott editing up to date. So Thanksgiving, 1 month to Christmas. Thanksgiving this year was on the 25th, 1 month from Christmas. Nothing happened on Scott. All the telephone numbers were DA, don't answer. But Glendora worked a long time scheduling Scott programs, labeling Scott 3/4-inch videotapes, and the archives. 1316 Scott 12, 1317 Scott 13, 1318 Scott 14, 1315 Scott 18 are all scheduled for lease access. That's where you pay for the cable TV channel. And that's in Westchester, and it's for the month of December, 1 a week. 1339 Scott 19, 1340 Scott 20, 1341 Scott 21, 1342 Scott 22 have to be scheduled. We're up to Chapter 22 on Scott. This is probably Chapter 23 that we're doing right now. 1324 Scott 17 also has to be scheduled. All the Scott videotapings up to date. That was done Wednesday a.m. and all the Scott editing is up to date. And that was done Wednesday p.m. The time on Scott Wednesday was 3 hours. November the 26th, 1993, Friday, folks, 1:10 p.m., the Glendora log, 11 a.m., Mr. Axelrod was not in. Please call. He's in the administrative claims for the United States Attorney. I've never heard from them on my claim, never. I've talked to Mr. Axelrod, but he doesn't know what's going on. He said he would call back, but he hasn't. 11:30 p.m., a.m., rather, Glendora talked to Bert Patterson. Sweet is investigating Scott. And Tri-State has no license because they left in the middle of the night, and they're being investigated. And Glendora complained about Pat to the chief clerk, Mr. Brown, in the district court. Pat is a clerk in the civil part who's supposed to give you information and didn't. And he would not look up the files for Glendora. And Glendora told the secretary that she was complaining to that Mr. Green was very helpful and that the 3 other clerks, all women, were really good. They are very good. That's at the district court in Hempstead. And if you go in the Center Street door and you go through security, then take that stairway right upstairs and turn left, and there is where all the judgments are, and you can read them. Now, for Fredman, we have to finish the appellant's brief on another appeal, folks. And then we have to start the Fredman record on appeal, and that is going to be a very fat one. That will be very expensive. And then O'Connell, we have to wait for his stipulation and the release to be signed April the 1st, 1994, April Fool's Day. And that's when Glendora gets paid. And that is everything today. The law professor told the students, if you know the law, hammer the law. If you know the facts, hammer the facts. If you don't know either, hammer the table. 3/4 an hour today on Scott. At 3:30 p.m., Glendora talked to Phil Sweet. He has not done anything yet on prosecuting Scott Lord for operating without a consumer affairs license. For the first time in months, Glendora got all her work done, including the telephoning, the details, 5 a.m. to letters, praying, and had free time. Can you imagine that? Free time started at 7:25 p.m. and lasted until bedtime, 9 p.m. Some of it was spent thinking, some of it was spent eating, some of it was spent watching TV, and some of it was just doing nothing. November the 27th, 1993, Saturday, the Glendora log, the files are fine. They are up to page 4,630. The Scott Lord's files are up to 4,630. 10:35 a.m., make a master of this mailing, number 108, and clean up the master and paginate it clearly so people can follow it. And 2 hours today on Scott. The left side of the brain controls the right side of the body, and the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. Therefore, only those people who are left-handed are in their right mind. November the 28th, 1993, Sunday, folks. This is before church, and guess what? This is Advent Sunday. Already, the first Sunday of Advent. 7 a.m., the Glendora log, get out the envelopes. There's 38 people we send this Scott Lord mailing to return address, to address and stamp, and the file is fine. And to do 1 hour envelopes, 1 hour copy, 1 hour full stuff seal post, 1 hour videotape, the what happened this week equals 4 hours, equals 12.5 hours for Scott Lord this week. And teenagers really brighten up a home, folks. Did you know that? Yes. They never turn off a light. Now, I wanted to tell you this log that went out today, and it's gone. And it cost something like $30 to print it. And it cost something like $11 to post it. Here it is. You might want to do this. First of all, you take the original, such as you see here. This is the original. Now, you go up to Staples and you reduce it 63%. And then, after it's all reduced, then you paste it up. And then after you paste it up, see, that's a paste up. It's 4 sheets per page. And then after you paste it up, folks, you make a master. And then you hand it to the copy person at Staples for 38 copies. And then you fold stuff and seal it, and then you post it. So I guess you know everything now. And that's what happened on Glendora versus Scott Lord from Thanksgiving to Sunday today, November the 28th. Keep your courage flaming. And here's what happened on November the 24th, 1993, Wednesday, Thanksgiving Day, Glendora, Thanksgiving Eve. Glendora versus Kenneth Broder et al. This was a big Broder day. Glendora sent 3 more Broder chapters to TCI to telecast. TCI lost one of the Broder chapters wrong. It was here. I'm sorry. Maybe Broder sabotaged it. No, he didn't. It was here. They will keep looking. Consequently, they had to play a repeat on their own motion, sua sponte, Tuesday night. They picked a good one to repeat, the summons with notice and complaint, lawsuit 3, antitrust. That was a good one to repeat. Glendora spent an hour videotaping what happened November the 15th, 1993 week, up through to today. Then she spent an hour editing it with graphics and music in Glendora versus Kenneth Broder, Chapter 53, program number 1337. She worked on a response to Kalaji's dumb answer. The second one, it is so poorly done, If he'd been smart, he would have made a motion, which would have served as an answer. She called Judge Broderick. Glendora called Judge Broderick. She talked to her lawyer. She decided to write an affidavit in opposition to this dumb so-called answer. And the time on Broder today was 3 hours. And the lawyer says, my retainer fee is $1,000, and that entitles you to 2 questions. And the client says, isn't that expensive? And the lawyer says, I suppose it is. What's your second question? November the 25th, 93, Thursday, Thanksgiving, 1 month from Christmas. There is a lot to be thankful for. It seems last Thanksgiving we were working on Broder. Glendora wrote out her response to the dumb answer from Kalaji. It is now being typed. The exhibits have to be paginated. The envelopes have to be returned addressed and dressed and stamped. And Glendora has to do some paginating in the Broder file. It is 9:50 a.m. There was no time for Broder because of going back. No, that's not so, folks. That's the wrong one. All right, let's find the right page. Glendora versus Gannett Broder mailing number 180. What happened Thanksgiving week 1993? The Broder file is up to page 4041. The affidavit of service is being typed now at 10:03 a.m. and then we'll do the envelopes. 10:18 a.m. it is done. It is ready to check over, print, and post. We'll do that tomorrow. This is enough today. The time on Broder today is 4 3/4 hours. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. The bricks in the wall, the lawyer said, are loose. We have a great case against Mother Goose. 1:45 p.m. on Friday. The files are in order. Reread Glendora's response to Kalaji's dumb answer. We'll send it out around November 30th. All the fuss about Form 18A. And the defendants, not one of them, ever returned Form 18A. Neither did he. What is the schedule on the Broder videotapes? 1313 Broder 46, 1315 Broder 48, 1336 Broder 52 are scheduled for December. TCI Westchester, 21 towns. 1337 Broder 53 is not scheduled anywhere yet. 1324 Broder 51 should have been telecast November 23rd, 93 Tuesday, and was not, and will have to be rescued. The law professor told the students, if you know the law, you hammer the law. If you know the facts, you hammer the facts. If you don't know either, you hammer the table. 3/4 an hour today on Broder. Broder videotaping is up to date. Broder editing is up to date. Broder telecasting is not up to date. November the 7th, 93 Saturday, nothing. The right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. The left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. So therefore, only those people who are left-handed are in their right mind. Glendora talked to 2 lawyers who got her name from the appellate division. We talked about the antitrust case against Gannett Broder. And here are the lawyers. They're brothers. So on Sunday, we packed up the whole docket, everything that's happened on this case, and we sent it to them. It'll be interesting to see what they come up with. Boy, it was raining hard on the way to church. This is the first Sunday of Advent, folks. It has stopped now at 1:30 p.m. Glendora sent the antitrust papers to be copied to send to these 2 lawyers. Wednesday, we start Advent service at noon and lunch. Teenagers brighten up a home, folks. They never turn off a light. Today, it will take an hour to videotape Glendora's affirmation in opposition to Kalaji's dumb answer. The time on Broder this week is 10 3/4 hours the week on Broder, and that ends the week of November 22nd, 1993. Okay. Now, I will read you my affirmation in opposition to the so-called answer that Robert Kalaji got out for Gannett. And that's over here in this yellow file. Here we go. Plaintiff Glendora, let me show you the caption and all that. Now, this is in the United States District Court, Southern District, White Plains Branch. Is Glendora Plaintiff versus Gannett Company Incorporated, Gannett Suburban Newspapers, John Curley, Gary Watson, Douglas McCorkindale, Gary Sherlock, Kenneth Paulson, defendants. Plaintiff's affirmation in opposition to defendant's meritless answer received by plaintiff November 21st, 93. Judge Vincent Broderick. Plaintiff Glendora, being duly sworn, opposes and says her reasons for opposing defendant's second answer she received November 21st, 93 follow. First Amendment. The First Amendment does not protect antitrust. They claim First Amendment. Gannett always does that. They're a newspaper. They think they can get away with it, First Amendment. Well, the First Amendment does not protect antitrust. The First Amendment does not cover up law breaking of the Sherman Act law and law breaking of the Clayton Act. Plaintiff standing. Glendora has endured, has suffered, and has been injured by defendants' antitrust, monopoly, lying, stealing, and cheating for years. Who else could have more standing than this plaintiff personally injured by these defendants? Personal jurisdiction. This is just another whimpering, pathetic escape of Park Avenue Kalaji and a dodge of the issues, pellucidly laying bare that he fears the issue of antitrust and is trying to get out on a technicality. If Kalaji wants personal service, Glendora will give him personal service and call his bluff, and defendants will have to pay for it, as Form 18A says. If you do not complete and return the form of the sender within 20 days, you may be required to pay any expenses incurred in serving a summons and complaint in any other manner permitted by law. The poor shareholders who will have to pay for it. It will not be the golden parachute management who generate all those evils. Wrong. Fails to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. The claim is antitrust and the relief is $600,000. This is a stationery store answer. This so-called answer is written by a computer, not a person. This is not Park Avenue. This is not Empire State. A second grader could get out a paper like this. Glendora's already read it on videotape, and it will be on her TV show shortly, along with his affidavit in opposition. Defendants defy the federal law on another reckless failure. Here's what Rule 4C2C II Form 18A says. To Gannett Company Incorporated, you must complete the acknowledgement part of this form and return the copy of the completed form to the sender within 20 days. You must sign and date the acknowledgement. If you do not complete and return the form to the sender within 20 days, you may be required to pay for any other kind of service. I told you that. If you do complete and return this form, you must answer the complaint within 20 days. If you fail to do so, judgment by default will be taken against you for the relief demanded in the complaint. Deny knowledge of information sufficient to form a belief. Don't these people know their own newspapers? Don't these people know their own business well enough to form a belief? Plaintiff can form no belief other than that this is a lie. Glendora is going to squeal to the pro se clerk about these people. He will bite them. The only things that have any substance in this so-called answer are the blue back and the envelope. They were made of substantial weight paper. The rest of it has nothing that gravity can grasp. It is headed for the ionosphere. Defendants are growing up. They learned not to ignore illegal paper. This time the defendants answered the summons and complaint, and timely. Some progress is being made in their upbringing. Defendant's record is to squirm, wiggle, fidget, and dodge rather than to face the issue like men. Plaintiff has had ample experience with said modus operandi. Plaintiff has had ample experience with said modus operandi. Plaintiff knows exactly how they will try to crawl their way out of this. Wherefore, Plaintiff Glendora pleads against the defendants that judgment be entered in favor of the plaintiff against the defendants in the amount of $600,000, representing threefold the damages suffered by plaintiff. The court allow and that the defendants be required to pay the full cost of suit incurred by plaintiff in accordance with Title 15, United States Code, Section 14. Plaintiff be granted such other and further relief as the court shall deem just, proper, and equitable in these circumstances. White Plains, New York, dated, and it'll probably be dated November 30th, Glendora, and it has to be notarized. And this is a list of people that it goes to. So then, that's what happened on Glendora versus Gannett Broder the week of 11/22/93. Keep your courage framing. No, it was in the morning. Glendora videotaped the update on the DHCR and Judge Coppola's bad decision. We worked 3 hours on the notice of appeal. That's Coppola's third bad decision. And the lawyer says, my retainer fee is $1,000, and the client says, oh, and the lawyer says, that entitles you to 2 questions. And the client says, isn't that expensive? And the lawyer says, I suppose it is. What's your second question? November the 26th, 93, Friday, 2 p.m., Franklin is out notarizing the affidavit of service, submitting to the county clerk. Serving on the other side, Glendora's notice of appeal of Capola's third bad decision. It is costing $50. This is a ripoff. The Capola first DHCR 1 is playing on TV Monday on TCI 21 Towns in Westchester at 4 p.m., Channel 8. All the Capola videotaping is up to date, but the editing is way behind. And so is the cable casting. Alrighty. So there must be another page, and then I'll show you the appeal. Franklin completed his mission. The notice of appeal to Capola, it's bad decision 3. The second appeal is submitted and served. We are $50 poorer. The right side of the mind controls the left side of the body. The left side of the mind controls the right side of the body, so only people who are left-handed are in their right mind. On November the 28th, 93, Sunday, the first day of Advent. Can you believe that? Glendora will be a quarter of an hour today videotaping the update on the DHCR Capola, and the time for the week is 10 hours, and teenagers really brighten up a home, don't they, folks? They never turn off a light. All righty. Now let's find the notice of appeal. Here it is. This is what costs $50. And behind the notice of appeal is the bad decision. You have to tell to whom you're sending it. I send it to something like 23 people. And so you have a copy of the bad decision. You have the affidavit of service of the notice of appeal on the other side. And then and that would be to the Attorney General, to Charles Sanders. And here's the RODI form, request for appellate division intervention. That costs $250. So now we're already up to $350, and then you have to make 12 copies of the record on appeal, and then you have to make 12 copies of the appellant's brief. So the time you get through the copying alone is going to be about $200. It costs about $800 to not find justice in the Westchester Supreme Court. That's what it costs you. You're going to go out and pay that, and you're not going to have justice. So this is Glendora versus the DHCR and Capola, Judge Capola. What happened on the week of November the 22nd, 1993? Well now, that certainly is enough to make a person smile. We are going to tell you what happened on Glendora versus Lydia Gallicano for the week of November 22nd, which is Thanksgiving week. All we're doing now, really, I don't find a lot to read here. We're just waiting for December the 1st to come, which is next Wednesday, at which time we're going to have 12 copies of the appellant's brief and 12 copies of the record on appeal made. That's going to cost about $200. Then we're going to ship them to Brooklyn. And then that's it. That's going to be Lydia Gallicano for about 2 years, because the appellate division is about 2 years behind. About a year ago, this is November the 28th, Sunday, the first Advent Sunday. About a year ago, we were moving from Lydia Gallicano's to this nice place here. And let's see, we can say that teenagers certainly brighten a home, don't they? Yeah, they never turn off a light. Versus CBS, the appellant's brief, and the part of the appellant's brief is a statement on the statement of fact, and that's being typed, and the argument, the first 3 points are done, the first 6 points are done. So as soon as that goes out, I don't know when that's due. I'll tell you, I'll look it up for you. I'll find the notice of appeal. The notice of appeal was on the 22nd of September, so that's on the December 22nd, 3 days before Christmas. But that has to be perfected. And when that's done, I'll read it to you, the appellant's brief and the arguments and the points on Judge Rosado's bad decision. Happened at 21 Greenridge Avenue on November the 22nd, 1993. That week, Glendora versus Walsh, Pucci, and Larkin. On November 22nd, 93, Monday, just as soon as the log was closed for last week Sunday, wouldn't you know, at 3:30 p.m., James Walsh and guest Patrick went by Glendora's south window. Patrick saw Glendora, and in no time at all, he and James got out the football and started cutting up the landlord's $400 front lawn. Glendora started the process. First, she videotapes it and to get the record, and then she calls the landlord and told him, but she did not call the police. That's usually the third step. At 4:30 p.m., somebody was sweeping in the front hall. Glendora was comfortably ensconced in her red easy chair, and she was loath to get up and see who it was. It is 24 hours of self-defense around here, and not all the comfort can be defiled. Later, indeed, the whole front hall was swept clean. It looked lovely. The last summons with notice and complaint, Roberta's, was gone. Glendora checked to see if it had ended up in the trash can in the cellar between the dryer and the washer. Yes, it had, so only Roberta would dare touch her legal paper, I would think. So maybe Roberta did the cleanup. The cellar floor is nice and dry, good for Caesar. There was no time to do the wall videotaping of log 34. The church combines with 9 other churches for a Thanksgiving service. It was beautiful. Refreshments were really good. There were 10 ministers there. Monday, 2 to 3 p.m., Officer Fisher met with Glendora. He asked questions. Glendora gave him detailed answers. She showed him the latest videotapes, the soap powder, the flour, the summons all over the place, the egg, all the recent vandalisms and broken laws. He was thorough. He has a good manner. He has a good way about him. He asked to hear the recordings of Glendora's summoning the police up to 21 Greenridge Avenue. She played him the eyewitness news piece. Glendora, surprised that WABC TV gave so much of that time, of that little piece to Glendora. Franklin said, "You will never hear from Diana Williams again," meaning after she left here October 5th, after 3 hours of interviewing, because she will be overwhelmed, because there is so much material, because it is so vast. This was very convincing, but as it turned out, this was by far the biggest part of Williams' report. It is amazing how much the public will stand. Officer Fisher shared with us his plan and his hope. He explained his work very well. Glendora kept him well entertained with some of the sidelights of the saga. She offered him all of the chronology since April the 12th, 1993, all of the 34 mailings, but he declined. He only has 8 or 9 of them. Glendora told him about 2D blowing his horn at 2 p.m. by Glendora's window, breaking the law, and asked him to speak to 2D about that. And number 539, number 540, those are the law breakings, torts, and harassments, 540 of them. The harassments and vandalism are criminal, along with the breaking of the White Plains noise ordinance, which started this whole disaster. The emotional disturbance, the stress, the insulting, abusive language, the intentional infliction of emotional distress are on the civil side and are in the Westchester County Supreme Court. The defendants acting with a desire to cause mental distress to the plaintiff. 3:44 p.m., Caesar was up to more good in the hall, measuring the banister. That's good. He's going to fix that. And at 5:55 p.m., defendants hit Glendora's outside bedroom wall, southeast corner, with a stick several times. That's number 541, harassment. Caesar painted the railing outdoors at the back cellar door. It looks nice. 2 hours on wall Monday and 1 hour today. The videotaping of wall for Thursday editing has not been done yet. Glendora's wall chapter 14 has been cleared for cablecasting in Westchester. 2 of them have been telecast in Manhattan. They are dreadful. All that vile language of Nella, Roberta, Daniel, and Theo. The lawyer said to the judge, "I want a retrial on the basis of new evidence." And the judge says, "What's the new evidence?" And the lawyer says, "I just found out my client has another $3,000. 3 p.m., James Walsh stomping up the stairs with intent to annoy and alarm. Remember the statement of Daniel Walsh, he's a big boy, he can take care of himself? Hardly, hardly, hardly. James Walsh has been the cause of more police calls than anybody else, I think. Number 542, 8:13 p.m., James Walsh stomped up the stairs 16 times. Franklin was a witness to it. 11/24/93, Wednesday, Thanksgiving Eve. It took a long time to videotape the wall updates for this week. There were so many torts. The Otto couple moved out. The apartment needed work badly, but Cesar and Roberto were doing a great job. They must have lived there, the Ottos must have lived there a long time. They left the cellar bin nice and clear in contrast to the person who used to live here. Another moving truck was here for 1A, that's Darlene. In the afternoon, Glendora edited the tape showing the eggs, the powder, the flour, the shaving cream, the audio tape conversations. That wall footage is all up to date. Program number 1334. Then she laid down the What Happened logs up to May 1993, program number 1343. Wall chapter 15. Chapter 14 will be on TV in a month. 3:50 p.m., James Walsh and Patrick were taunting as Franklin and Glendora were leaving for TCI to edit. That's number 543. 10:45 p.m., somebody kicked our front door. Violent kick, a violent kick. Glendora went to see who. Daniel Walsh was the only one around. Lawyer, my retainer fee is $1,000, and that entitles you to 2 questions. Client, isn't that kind of expensive? And the lawyer says, I suppose it is. Now, what's your second question? Thanksgiving, November 25th, 1993. We had a good vegetarian Thanksgiving dinner. We painted the roof of the Lincoln. We did some touch-ups. Franklin and Glendora were talking to Darlene. James Walsh and Daniel went by. James taunted. He gets that from his parents. Number 545. 10:37 a.m. Cesar is working on Thanksgiving Day, fixing up the apartment. He said a man, a woman, and a baby are moving in. 11:23 a.m. 2D is cutting across the lawn. There will be nothing left of the lawn. Also, somebody is killing the grass going over the lawn to Building B. The Walsh-Alpucci-Larkin file is up to 500 pages. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. The bricks in the wall, said the lawyer, are loose. We have a great case against Mother Goose. Time on wall yesterday was 2 hours. The time today is 3/4 an hour. 2:40 p.m. The Thanksgiving peace was broken by an intruder, Uncle Ozzie, coming into the back parking area, which he should not do. There are no accommodations for guest parking here. He should not come in here, but he does repeatedly. That's number 546, and blowing his horn of the old Cadillac. That's number 547. Uncle Ozzie is the husband of horn-blowing addict Nella Alpucci's sister, and there was 98% peace. We looked again at apartment 3C. Cesar and Roberto have done wonders to it. They got out all of the wall-to-wall carpeting. They sanded the floors, and they're painting the walls. We painted the vinyl roof, as I said, on the Lincoln. It looks great. And it was 20 degrees this morning. Now, page 3, what happened on November 26, 1993, Friday. 6:50 a.m., Glendora left a message on John Porzy's recorder. Could the next refrigerator he buy be a little one and give it to Glendora so somebody else could have her great big refrigerator, which we only use about 1/3 of it. The Lincoln started at 20 degrees. Darlene moved out. That is too bad. She was a good neighborhood. Glendora looked at her apartment. This is the apartment that we first looked at here in October of 1992, and we were considering it in 3 other places. And we really wanted one for November 30th, so we let it go. It was a month early. Then later we took 2A across the hall for November 30th. Darlene saw Glendora's apartment and liked the bright sun coming into the rooms. Darlene's aunt was here. 9:58 a.m. John Porcia was here talking to Bob. Cesar and Roberto are still working on 3C. The law professor told the students, if you know the law, hammer the law. If you know the facts, hammer the facts. If you don't know either, hammer the table. All the editing is up to date. They were on TV yesterday. 4 have been scheduled for December on cable TV. That's the wall videotapes. 4 more have been scheduled on the 2nd. And that leaves 3 unscheduled. And here's the police report of Officer Coyle. And frankly, folks, I just can't read it. I just can't read it. It's about the flour in the water, and about the very vile note that was left on the door.
National background. Here's the law that James Walsh keeps breaking, and the others, Larkin and Al Pucci. New York law adheres to the majority view, which expressly recognizes the existence of an independent tort of intentional infliction of emotional distress. A cause of action for intentional infliction of severe emotional distress may be maintained. There may be recovery for the intentional infliction of emotional distress without proof of the breach of any duty other than the duty to refrain from inflicting it. One who by extreme and outrageous conduct intentionally or recklessly causes severe emotional distress to another is subject to liability for such emotional distress. Liability is found only where the conduct is so outrageous in character and so extreme in degree as to go beyond all possible bounds of decency, and that has happened here 540 times, and to be regarded as atrocious and utterly intolerable in a civilized community. Correct. 5:24 p.m., Glendora talked to Lieutenant Quinn and told him someone had kicked her door very hard Thanksgiving Eve at 10:45 p.m. 1993 Saturday, 8:30 a.m., 5 people are here moving out Darlene. They are all very good-looking people. 10:30 a.m., 2 of them, the 2 young men, parked the Jeep on John Porzio's lawn near the front door. It is queer how people do such substandard things. Where are their standards? The time on wall today is 1/4 of an hour. Darlene has moved to a house with 3 bedrooms and a backyard for her daughter. That is what the Walsh family needs, the Alpucci family needs that, and the Larkin family needs that. 12:57 p.m., memorize more law. The left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. The right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. Therefore, only those people who are left-handed are in their right mind. There is a sign on the dryer stating that this dryer takes your money and gives you nothing in return. Out of order. It was put up by somebody who has access to a computer because it is a very well lettered and printed sign. Darlene has moved. She had 5 people helping, all very good looking. 6:42 p.m., James Walsh was doing his stair stomping to annoy and to alarm. That's number 548. Teenagers really brighten up a home, don't they, folks? They never turn on a light. On November the 28th, 1993, the first Sunday of Advent, we did not use the dryer. Maybe it works, maybe it does not. The sign is still there. We dry the clothes on our radiators. This is the first Sunday of Advent. 11:32 a.m., Glendora and Franklin came home from church. Franklin stayed with a Lincoln at the curb. Glendora went in to get some things for Franklin. As Glendora got out of the car, Candy and Roberta sing-song, "Hi, Glendora." Then they giggled. This is so infantile. They look like adults, but they are infants. They continued to taunt as Glendora picked the wet leaves off the Lincoln. She did not have time to pick off before church. At 11:42 a.m., they whistled. This is all from Roberta's west windows on the 2nd floor, north apartment. Glendora ignored the taunting and did not respond. Bob has a beard and he looks good. To do today, close the log at 3 p.m., do the 23 envelopes, videotape the update, what happened this week for TV, 1 hour to copy, fold stuff, seal, and post is equal to 3 1/4 hours. The total time this week on Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin is 9 1/4 hours. And Charlie says, "How much money do you have in the bank?" And Peter says, "I don't know. I haven't shaken it lately." This is what happened on Glendora versus Wall, Alpucci, and Larkin on the week of November the 22nd, 1993. And keep your courage flaming. How you doing today? This is Glendora versus Scott Lord et al. This is mailing number 111 on what happened on November 29th, 93 week. 40 sheets were posted yesterday, $30 copying plus $9 postage. This has gone on for years. It goes to 38 people. We videotaped November the 22nd week, and we handed in 3 1/2-hour programs on Scott et al. To be cable cast. And on our way to small claims court for another Scott Lord. This one is breach of contract. And what is his name? Which White Plains court was that? Oh, that would be Yonkers. That would be Russell Brower. He ordered the spot and then he reneged. Pete, how much money do you have in the bank? Bob, I really don't know. I haven't shaken it lately. The trustees in Washington, D.C. administrative claim is getting nowhere, and the woman at Forever Green said that she did not know the name of the owner of Forever Green at Scott Lord, and she wouldn't say so, nor did she know the home improvement license number. That's because Scott Lord doesn't have one. And Glendora told Consumer Affairs, and she spent a half an hour on Scott Lord, and this judge in Yonkers reserved his decision. November the 30th, 1993, Tuesday, we ran around all morning trying to get an appellate term judge to sign an order to show cause. He was in Mineola. In addition to judge absenteeism, the clerk in the city court did a dumb thing that cost us 6 days and eventually $1,250. She sent the order of release to a year-old address, and she knew better. It took the post office 6 days to get it to box 532, and this is all you need, folks, to get robbed. Absenteeism of judges, negligences by court clerks, and I cannot imagine worse administration than the courts. We took 4 more Glendora versus Scott Lord videotapes to be cablecast, chapters 12, 13, 14, and 18, all half-hour shows, all about Scott. Stahl, Barnes, et al., so that is 2.5 hours on Scott, equals 3 so far this week. December 1993. December 1st, Wednesday, we were chasing around for that order to show cause, and finally we found the judge. We fought the red tape, and we got it signed. It was too late. Glendora's $1,250 had been mailed out yesterday afternoon. It was mailed to the liar, thief, and cheat. Why do the courts have to be on the side of the crooks? In the afternoon, we had another trial, another Scott Lord. This was the Martial Arts Institute of America on Court Street in White Plains. He ordered an ad on WNBC TV for $500, and then he reneged just like Scott. So this trial started at 5 p.m. It lasted 45 minutes, and the judge rendered her decision immediately. It was in favor of Glendora and for these money damages. December the 2nd, 1993, Thursday. The appellate division came to White Plains to hear oral arguments. There were 4 judges, Ritter, Rosenblatt, Thompson, and Miller. It was interesting, and Franklin went also, and Glendora was glad to see the 4 judges and the 4 court officers who came up from Brooklyn. The appellate division does this in White Plains about 4 times a year, and most of the time that they were hearing oral arguments is unbelievable. There was jackhammer noise almost right up to the bench. It was unbelievable. That's because the federal court house is being built next to the White Plains Public Safety Center and the county courthouse. And they're digging underneath our courthouse to put in the parking lot for the federal courthouse. In the afternoon, Glendora edited for 4.5 hours. 1 hour of that was on Scott. Chapter 21 concluded. Chapter 22 started. Scott videotaping is up to date. Scott editing is up to date. And Scott cablecasting is only 2 programs behind. Next week, Glendora will have to find a cable company to cablecast these. And 1 hour and 3 equals 4 this week so far on Scott. Friday, trustee Richard O'Connell has not got his stipulation and release to Glendora as he promised he would. Glendora wants her payment. On April Fool's Day, 1994, O'Connell is dallying. Glendora got a letter, certified mail from the administrative courts in Washington, D.C. She has not had time to do the in-mail yet. 8:55 a.m. The O'Connell phone is no answer, so he did the filing. The files are fine. We are up to date, and we got 4,675 pages of Scott Lord. Insert. Lee Baudelet called Glendora but left no information. She's from the United States Trustee's Office in Washington, D.C., where my administrative claim is. That is dumb not to leave any information. What is happening to Glendora's administrative claims against the trustees in the Department of Justice? That's all she had to tell me. Glendora called back and told the secretary that, but Baudelet did not call. This has gone on from Janet Reno to Martha Davis to an underling of Davis to Axelrad to Baudelet. But the resolution has gone nowhere. Here they are, as bad as the people Glendora sued. They're as bad as the 3 trustees, the Howard Jones and Teresa Kavanaugh and Neil Mann, as bad as the defendants. $19,400 is good in the creditor's bank account at the present. That's the money that Scott Lord paid in and Tri-State paid in. And Scott Lord said we wouldn't get a penny. Franklin served a notice of motion for default judgment for $21,000 on another case started Veterans Day. Glendora moved the court with this motion and bought the judge. That's the request for judicial intervention. That's $75, Westchester Supreme Court. The time on Scott today is 1 hour, and that equals 5 for the week so far. And Phyllis was asked, when are you thinking of getting married, Phyllis? And Phyllis said, constantly. Seventh call for Mr. Feener at the U.S. Attorney's Office. He's never returned any calls. They are as negligent as the defendant, Andrew Maloney. December the 5th, 1993, Sunday, communion. Who are the officers of the bankrupt debtor? Who are the officers of the bankrupt debtor? Nobody is asking the administrative office to be liable for the panel trustee. Who is their counsel? Indeed, suit should be filed. Now, Novinsky, we are right back where we started. Get your fangs ready. The problem is the other three agencies should have their answers in by now so that all of these people can be sued at once. I'll read you that office from the administrative, that letter from the administrative office of the United States courts. And of course, this is by Mr. Chastain, and the decision was made by Mr. Meekum, L. Ralph Meekum, and he's the director, and he makes all the decisions, yea and nay. Glendora, Post Office Box 532, Scarsdale, Glendora. This will serve as formal notification that the director of the administrative office has denied in full your tort claim for money damages, asking from the performance of official duties by judicial officer of the United States courts in the course of your prosecution of a civil action. Watch, they'll never name the judges. Oh no, they cover up. Shh. The judges are Judge Hall and Judge Duberstein. Under the Federal Tort Claims Act, the government is liable for tortious actions only when the judicial officer would be personally liable. Well, they should be personally liable. That's Title 28, United States Code, Section 2672. The government may assert the defense of judicial immunity when it is available to the employee. And that's Title 28, United States Code, Section 2674. Furthermore, the government cannot be liable in tort for actions of non-employees like the panel trustee. Well, nobody ever asked them to. The office of the bankrupt debtor, we don't care about the officers of the bankrupt debtor. He doesn't have any in their counsel. We don't care about that. I am required by regulations of the Department of Justice to advise you that if you are dissatisfied with the agency's disposition of your claim, you have the right to file suit in an appropriate United States District Court within 6 months of the date of mailing of this notification. Well, now that 6 months is going, and before that's going to go right back to Judge Cattell. All right, the problem is the other three agencies should have their answers in by now so that all of these people can be sued at once. My husband was in D-Day. This is D-Day. No, it isn't. He did his job like an American. He did not fight for an America where people commit the negligence such as the federal defendants did. They should give their best to America, not their worst. I have until June the 3rd, Franklin's birthday, to file suit. So these other three agencies get going. Be there when I call or return calls with some information. What else is going on with Scott? Get these other agencies on the phone Monday and get them moving. This is ridiculous. Second Sunday in Advent. What is the time on Scott this week? 5 3/4 hours. How many Scott videotapes have to be taken to be telecast? Just 2. See that those get out and on TV Monday. Paul, I run things in my house. Mother-in-law, that's right. He runs a vacuum cleaner, the dishwasher, the power motor, the washing machine. This is the end of November the 29th, 1993, week Glendora versus Scott Lord. Keep your courage flaming. Here's what happened on Glendora versus Jeanette Brower and Curley and Sherlock and McCorkindale and Watson and Paulson. On Monday, the 22nd, or the 29th, there was a trial in small claims court, and a business accepted an offer to advertise on WNBC TV with me, and they breached it, and the judge reserved his decision. And on Tuesday, we tried to find an appellate term judge to sign an order to show cause, but he's in Mineola. And meanwhile, the check goes out and costs Glendora $1,250. The White Plains court sent the order to the wrong address, and the order gets to Glendora 6 days late.
so that she can't get the order to show cause out in time. The check goes out. This is negligence, corruption in the courts. Gannett knows nothing about it. They should do an article on it, but Gannett isn't that smart. It was 0 time on Broder today, December 1993. Welcome, December. 12/1/93 Wednesday, Glendora tracks down the appellate term just short of going to Mineola to find him. I would have gone to Mineola to find this judge. He signs the order to show cause, but the check went out yesterday afternoon. Isn't that peachy? Glendora's damaged $1,250. Glendora takes the videotapes of her program to more cable TV companies. The Broder tapes are going to be seen by more people, and it was a half an hour on Broder. December the 2nd, 1993, Thursday. It was 1 hour to edit. Gannett Broder videotapes, program 1337. Broder chapter 53 is done with a VHS archive. A VHS archive done also. 1345 Broder chapter 54 has about 15 minutes on it of what happened last week, November 22nd, 93 week. Broder editing is up to date. Broder videotaping is up to date. And only 2 Broder programs have yet to be telecast. 1 hour on Broder. December the 3rd, 93 Friday, affirmation in opposition to Kalaji's dumb second answer is ready to be notarized, served, and submitted. Yesterday we spent 2 hours in the Pace Law Library. We are going to make a motion to Judge Broderick. I will show you that research. Here it is. This is about making a motion. And this is what it sort of looks like, and it's very, very good information. And these books are very well put together. It's really not much to be a lawyer. Everything's a matter of forms. You go to the library and look at the right form. And then you make a copy of it, sign it, and send it out. That's about all it is to being a lawyer. Yesterday, Glendora won a breach of contract case in court, White Plains Small Claims Court. This is another Scott Lord case. When are you thinking of getting married? Marilyn was asked, and Marilyn said, constantly. Time on Broder this week so far is 3 hours. Editing and the library research. Add another 2 hours for today, getting the affirmation ready and looking over the library research. The affirmation was notarized, submitted to the clerk, submitted to the judge, and served on the defendants. That was $5 in 1 hour. Equals 6 3/4 hours on Broder so far this week. Edited videotapes for 14 hours in Manhattan yesterday, and there was no Broder, and the editing cost $175. We stopped at the library to see the reporter dispatch for 3 days. There was no Broder articles. We brought the log up to date. We've been baking bread. At 9:37 a.m. we checked the Broder file. We are up to page 4061 on Broder. 9:45 a.m. read some of the research from the Pace Law Library. We were done at 10:10 a.m. That's a magic minute. The papers from the Law Library are very good. The time on Broder so far this week is 7 3/4 hours. Did you hear about the couple who got married so late in life that Medicare picked up 80% of the honeymoon costs? Now, on December the 5th, 1993, Sunday, which is communion, 1/2 hour on Broder today. Glendora has not heard from those 2 lawyers out in Suffolk County. Let me show you their stuff. I think I did show it to you. I did call them up, and they said they didn't get it. I strongly suspect that. You know, everybody's so willing to blame the United States Post Office. But there's something crazy there. The Gannett, did you know that Gannett was selling for $56.50? It must be time to sell. Now, everybody, we have the what happened with the DHCR, Judge Coppola, that mess. We handed in 3 videotapes of the DHCR Coppola to cable TV company to be telecast, and we're on our way to Yonkers to small claims. Russell Brower contracted for an ad on NBC TV, and he breached the contract. And there was a great big large meeting,
and all of the members of the lodge were dressed up in their grand and glorious costumes. And the scribe stood up and he says, "The grand invincible potentate will not be here tonight. His wife will not let him out of the house." November the 30th, 1993, Tuesday all morning, two people were chasing around for the administrative judge on the appellate term to sign an order to show cause, but absenteeism of the judge was what we got instead. And this is December 1993. On the first Wednesday, the judge showed up and signed the order to show cause. It was too late. The check went out yesterday, and Glendora was out $1,250 because of the negligence of the clerk, because of an absenteeism of the judge, and because of a pro-landlord judge in White Plains City Court. Add to this all the other things, and that's all it takes for you to get ripped off by the courts. It is outrageous, plus all the other evils of the court, so-called system. December the 2nd, 1993, Thursday, Glendora won a case in City Court yesterday on breach of contract. A business ordered an ad on WNBC TV. This is another business, the Martial Arts Institute of America on Court Street in White Plains next to Woolworths. Glendora watched the oral arguments of the appellate division in White Plains, Ritter, Rosenblatt, Thompson, and Miller, and it was very good, except they had jackhammers going. There's construction going there in the courthouse, and it was right underneath the judges. It was not fair to the judges. It was not fair to the lawyers giving the oral argument. And someday I will be standing before those very judges telling about Judge Coppola. In fact, some 2 days, because I have 2 appeals against his bad decisions. We edited in the afternoon for 4¼ hours. Coppola videotaping is up to date. The editing has not even started. Cable casting has not started. But the Coppola first DHCR 7 chapters, half-hour each, have been on TV in Manhattan, 4 in White Plains, and 3 now are scheduled for his hometown Yonkers. December the 3rd, 1993, Friday, an affirmation in opposition to an answer, federal court this morning, and a motion for default judgment. I hope Coppola does not get assigned to this new case that I filed in the Westchester County Supreme Court. All afternoon we were editing 5 programs for TV and making archives on VHS. On December the 4th, 1993, Saturday, nothing to do on the DHCR, that's the Division of Housing and Community Renewal, until we finish 2 appeals, and then we start 2 Coppola appeals. Phyllis, when are you thinking of getting married? Phyllis, constantly. December the 5th, 1993, Sunday, communion. 1 hour this week on the DHCR Coppola. How many Coppola programs are waiting to be cable cast in Yonkers? 3. The William Street videotaping is done, but no editing has been done, and naturally no cable casting. Did you hear about the couple that got married so late in life that Medicare picked up 80% of the cost of the honeymoon? Take care. With Glendora versus Lydia Gallicano et al. On November the 29th, 93, Monday, nothing. Glendora was in Yonkers Small Claims Court, and a man contracted there for a TV package on WNBC TV, and he breached the contract. And so I was down there fighting for the $500. And at the lodge, you know how they are at the lodge, and they're all dressed up in their grand and glorious uniforms. And so the scribe says, the Grand Master, he says, the Grand Invincible Potentate will not be here tonight. His wife won't let him out of the house. Holden sent an order of release for the $1,250 to go to Lydia. This is ridiculous. The whole thing is on appeal. In fact, it's in 2 places on appeal. It's in the appellate division, and it's in the appellate term. And the White Plains Court gets everything mixed up. On November the 30th, 1993, Tuesday at 6 a.m., Glendora and Franklin started writing the order to show cause for Ingracia to sign, also the affidavit, and Judge Ingracia, and also the affidavit in support of the note, and then we got the notice of appeal out, and the order of release, and the order to pay, which were all unconstitutional. The decision was unconstitutional. And we went to county courthouse, and we got the affidavit notarized. And then we went to Judge Ingracia's chambers, and he was not on the job and would not be until Thursday. He was out in Mineola. Darrell was not there. They are never there when you need them. His law clerk was extremely helpful. His name is Richard Farina. He said the papers looked fine and that he would say that Judge Incracia would be inclined to sign them. He suggested that Judge Holden could stay his own order to release the funds. So Franklin and Glendora went to Judge Holden's courtroom. Unfortunately, this was the week that Judge Holden was on criminal and there were about 60 people in the courtroom. It would have been much easier if he'd been on the civil calendar. So we waited and talked to people that we knew, and finally Glendora asked the court officer to take a note to Judge Holden. And the note was, "Can Glendora please see Judge Holden? It is an emergency." And we waited. And insert this, we found out that the check had been cut for Gallicano and was ready to go, but we had to stop it. It was not just, it was corrupt. Judge Holden sent a female clerk to ask Glendora what the emergency was about. Well, that is next to impossible to tell anybody other than the person you want to speak to, and the clerk suggested that Glendora write it out, and she did, and I'll show you that exhibit. I wrote it out in longhand. There's page 1 and 2. I'm sitting in the courtroom and he's on the bench deciding all these criminal things. November the 30th, 1993, Tuesday, 10:14 a.m., Judge Holden, the first cause of emergency. Glendora did not receive your order of release until late yesterday afternoon because your clerk sent it to the 40 Longview, which you know I vacated 1 year ago. So 6 days were lost by forwarding your November 23rd order to release to Box 532 Scarsdale, which the clerks know to be my address. Second cause of emergency. I took my order to show cause to stay your order of release to Judge Incracia this morning at 9 a.m., but Judge Incracia is meeting in Mineola with Judge DiPaolo and all the other appellate term judges for 2 days. His law clerk looked at my stay papers and said they were fine and that he thought Judge Incracia might be inclined to sign the order to show cause. Third cause of emergency. Judge Incracia's law clerk, through several calls, ascertained that the check has been cut and is about to go out. And the person who's doing this is Bruce Stewart, and his telephone number is 285-3749. Plea. Would you please stay your own order until Judge Incracia comes in Thursday and I can get a chance to present to him my order to show cause? All right. So we sat and we waited. And then Judge Holden sent down this stick note, and this is his writing. And I'll read to you what he said. I have no power to make a motion returnable in appellate term. That's not even what we asked him. An order of release is a ministerial act. And then over here, what does this mean? Not appearance. Well, what do we do next? What Judge Holden wrote back showed he did not understand the issue. As he usually does not. And he would not stop the check until Judge Incracia got back Thursday to sign the order to show cause. It is corrupt. It is a mockery of justice. Glendora went to the clerk and asked her who mailed this to 40 Longview, and this was a stupid thing to do, and the clerk said that she did it. And Glendora says that the court knew that Glendora vacated the same 365 days ago, and sending it to the wrong address tied up 6 days with a forwarding order when Glendora could have been getting an order to show cause why it should not be stayed. Negligence and corruption. The clerk said that she was sorry, and Glendora told the clerk how Holden would not budge, and the clerk says, well, let me go talk to him. So the clerk, and he was on a recess too, and so she did. But Holden would not budge for her either. She said, if Glendora understood her correctly, that Holden told her that she shouldn't even send out a copy to Glendora of this order to release. Well, I hope that is not so. Certainly I have a right to know that an order of release of my $1,250 has been sent out. That would be even more crooked. First, Holden ignores Glendora's offense that the matter is in the Supreme Court and you should dismiss Gallicano action. That was back in November of '92. Then he makes her pay $1,250 before the trial. That's unconstitutional. That's a denial of due process. Then he rules after the trial that Gallicano should have the $1,250, which is unjust. Then he orders it should be released after it has been on appeal, and that's in two courts, the appellate division and the appellate term. And the appeal was perfected November 1st. Have I told you that the White Plains City Court is all mixed up? This is insanity. So Glendora went back to see Judge Carey, the duty judge. Judge Carey could not sign an order to show cause for the appellate term. Then she asked Judge Palella, the other duty judge, and he could not sign it. And then Farina asked her to come to Judge Ingrassi's office, and she told him what had happened since Franklin and Glendora left him. And he says it will become moot and Glendora can get her money on a restitution. Well, this is unacceptable. You know, that's years and years down the road. Glendora went to the finance commissioner and told him about the injustice, getting the order 6 days late because of negligence of a court clerk, and the injustice of not having a judge here who could sign an order to show cause to stop this check from going out. It's corruption instead of justice. We told him. Then we went to Channel 34 and got the access application form to put our program on there. Then we went to TCI in Mamaroneck and picked up and handed in tapes. Then we went to Cablevision in Harrison and picked up 4 tapes that had been telecast and gave them 4 new tapes. Then we went to Cable TV in Connecticut and gave them 4 tapes to telecast. And Monday we gave Yonkers 6 tapes to telecast. Glendora has to get these tapes edited and cablecast and get this Lydia story before the public. Okay. These, I just stop here a minute about this Commission on Judicial Conduct. I think it's a joke. They send you out a form letter. This is to acknowledge receipt by the State Commission on Judicial Conduct of your complaint, mark so-and-so. They never mention the judge that you're talking about. Ooh, no. Cover it up. Your complaint will be presented to the Commission, but please note that the Commission has no jurisdiction over judges, law secretaries. I note that you have written to the Deputy Administrative Judge in the Office of Court Administration. We will communicate with you again after the Commission has received your letter of complaint. Of course, they won't pay any attention to it. I don't know, why New York taxpayers have to pay people for a nothing, a real nothing service. Now, page 11. We're still on November 30th, 93, Tuesday. Then we went to Sims, but they do not have any winter pants, and everything looks like summer stuff, and Glendora wants Franklin to have warm winter pants, flannels or whatever. We were 13 hours on Lydia yesterday, December 1993. Welcome, December. We have been calling Judge DiPaolo and Mineola to try to find out if Judge Ingrassi is there. It has been a don't answer 12 times. We got the Donovan Con Edison punitive ready to copy. It's 11 copies of the brief and 11 copies of the record on appeal. That too is a Lydia case. That's Glendora versus Lydia Roselli Gallicano for the illegal Con Ed charges. We were paying her Con Ed when she should have been paying it, and we were asking for punitive damages. And Judge Donovan made a bad decision, and we are appealing that. So the record on appeal and the appellant's brief were sent to the printers. Time on Lydia so far this morning is 2 hours. Franklin did the 7A to 8A telephoning. We found Judge Ingrassia. He will be all morning in the county courthouse, 111 Grove Street. So let's go. Harry, aren't you ashamed of yourself going up to that buffet table so many times? You've been up there 12 times. And Harry says, oh no, dear. I tell him it's for you. 9:15 a.m. we went to Judge Ingrassia's chambers. The administrative judge, the place was empty. They were having their pictures taken. Gradually, people began returning. Judge Ingrassia appeared with a coffee cup. Richard Farina said that it would be moot if the check had gone out. We were going backwards. He said Fred Shapiro had to add a phrase saying that it would be moot if the check went out. But now we had to wait for Fred Shapiro. Finally, he came up and added the phrase, and Judge Ingrassia signed the order to show cause. Shapiro said to make a copy for us that conformed to the one that Judge Ingrassia signed. We did that, and we took it to the receptionist for Judge Ingrassia to sign ours. She says, oh no, he doesn't sign it. I've been a clerk for 20 years, and this is how it is done. And she signed Judge Ingracia's name and initialed her name. She gave this to Glendora. Glendora said she wanted a copy of Judge Ingracia's signature on this paper, and the clerk resisted. And Glendora says, well, I've been working on this for 2 days. And I think it's terrible that I don't have a copy of this. So she went over. Oh, by the way, here's the order of release. Okay, and here it is, mailed to the wrong address. 40 Longview Avenue. And there you can see the postal forwarding to box 532, which cost me 6 days and prevented my getting an order to show cause to stop payment. To stop the release of that check. And so, all right, so where was I? So she went and she got, see, here's the order to show cause.